Test Vav Amad Beis, 3 lines from the top. Lememra. We had a Gemara. The Gemara said that Yossi ben Yezer and Yossi ben Yochanan, Ish Yerushalayim, they made a decree on the land of the nations. That means the lands outside the land of Israel. They also made a decree on glass vessels. That's what we quoted from a brisa. Why do we quote that brisa? Because at the end of that brisa said that Shami and Hill made a gzeira on the hands, that the hands need to be washed. Okay, so in quoting that brisa, we go back to discuss the. Let me mute and then we'll. So at the end of that, now we're going back to discuss different parts of the brisa. So one of these things was that this decree on Eretz Amim, and that the land outside the land of Israel is considered tamei. Why? Because maybe they buried people not in buried a corpse that wasn't in a cemetery. Gemara asked, that was by Yossi ben Yezer, Yossi ben Yochanan, Ish Yerushalayim. What are you talking about? We have a statement that it was from the Chachamim 80 years before the Churban. We said maybe you'll say that Yossi ben Yezer was 80 years before the Churban. So it's impossible, because 100 years before the Churban was still Hillel, and they were before Hillel. So the Gemara gave an answer that there were two gezeiros. One gezeira was on the land. That means if you touch the land, you walk on the land or touch it. And that, if Truma touched that land, then you would have to burn it. And the other gezeira was on the airspace. They didn't make any gezeira on the airspace, the Yossi ben Yezer. But the Rabbanan of 80 years before the Churban, they made a gezeira that the ear is also tamei. Now, Taisus explains that it has to do with the different tumas of, there's tumas maga, tumas masa, and tumas oil. Tumas maga and masa means touching. Tumas oil means if you hover above it. So let's say somehow you get into the airspace that you're hovering above, let's say you're on a wagon or something, but you don't actually touch the ground. So then that was a decree that came later. That was the Rabbanan of 80 years before the Churban. The Gemara now says, L'meimra, do you want to say, is this to say, the Chad Gzeira Havel Esreifa, or the Bach switches it, to Tchilas Gzeira, Tchilas Chad Gezerta was L'Esreifa. You want to say that originally the decree was that if you touch it, if you touch the ground of the Eretz Amim, that outside the land of Israel, that you have to burn that Truma. Va'amar Ilfa, but Ilfa, which we learned before, was the friend of Rabbi Yochanan. He told us that Yadayim Tchilas Geziras and L'Sreifa, that hands, the original decree was for burning. What does that sound like? That Yadayim Hu the Tchilas Geziras and L'Sreifa. There was only one of these decrees that originally was that you had to burn the Truma. You see, there's two steps here. One is that the Truma is considered tamei. The Truma is the produce that's separated as a gift to the Kohen. So that's becomes sanctified. And if it becomes touched by someone that's tamei, so you can't eat it. But then there's another step, that if it becomes touched by someone that's tamei, you have to burn it. So those are two levels here. If it's definitely tamei, then it gets burnt. If it's in doubt, if it's tamei, then it's just left like in limbo. So what we're dealing with here is that we said that if Truma touches the land of the nations, that it's burnt. We said, well, really? Ilfa says that hands that touched Truma, actually we had a different way of learning it, hands that touched maybe a carbon, so that gets burnt. That sounds like that was the decree that started off with such severity that you have to burn that Truma or Kachim. But other decrees here, maybe you don't, only started off that you just leave it in limbo, you don't eat it, but you don't burn it either. But other decrees, you don't burn them. The Gemara answers this. It says, Ella, rather we have to do it differently. Asa inu, Gazer agusha litles, va'avir v'leiklum. Yossi ben Yezer and Yossi ben Yochanan, they made a decree that the land of the nations, if truma touches it, then you leave the truma in limbo. You don't burn it. What did they do regarding the airspace? Tumas oyel? Nothing. That was still tahar. Then 80 years before the Churban, there's some severities that came along. And they said that you even have to burn it if it touches the land. In the airspace, which means tumas oyel, the tumah of a tent or something that's hovering over the ground, that is left in limbo, which means that truma you can't eat. Okay. Tosfos asks, we have a Mishnah that tells us that there is no tumas oyel on Eretz Amim. What over here you're telling me that there's a tumas oyel on Eretz Amim? So Tosfos answers several answers. One of them is an interesting answer. It's talking about that someone brought back a clod of earth. Someone brought back a clod of earth into Eretz Yisrael. We say that there's no tumas oyel on that. Just 1 second. Mommy, you want to come sit down? Sure. You want to sit down? Okay. Sorry. So Tosfos answers, one answer is that if you brought the dirt into the land of Eretz Yisrael, not that you're outside the land of Eretz Yisrael on the dirt. Another answer he gives is that it's going like the opinion that holds that there's no tumas oyel on a grave of a non-Jew. It's just one opinion. It's the opinion of Reb Shimon. Another answer he gives, a very interesting answer. He says that Mishnah that says that there's no tumas oyel on the land of the nations is said before this Gezerah. It's an old Mishnah. Now that we have a Gezerah, so that Mishnah won't apply. So interesting answers here. Okay, the first answer that Tosfos gave was that you brought dirt in from the nations. It's an interesting answer. Maybe why would someone do that? Maybe he brought it in for compost, or maybe there was a special type of soil or something. I don't know why he would do that. It wasn't because he was visiting America and he brought back a jar of dirt or something. Okay. Vakati, the Gemara asked, Vakati Ba'usha Gazer. What are you telling me? That this decree about the ground of the outside the land of Israel gives off Tumah. What are you telling me that that's a decree from Yossi ben Yezer? And then it's also a decree from the rabbis of 80 years before the Churban. We have a statement that it came from after the Churban. You see, there were 10 places where the Sanhedrin traveled, and one of them was called Usha, but this was after the Churban, or at least within the 40 years before, but not 80 years before. Ditanan, started in the Mishnah. There are 6 cases that are doubts, where usually when something is in a doubt, you just don't eat the truma, but you also don't burn it. There are 6 cases where you actually burn the truma. What are they? Al safek beis hapras. If there's a doubt regarding a beis hapras, that means a field that has either a grave in it that was plowed. In other words, the field was plowed, but there was a grave in that field. So it could be that there's bones spread out over the whole area. That is the opinion of Tosfos. Rashi learns Safek beis hapras is that there's a grave in that field. You just don't know exactly where it is. So when the truma went through this field, could be that it went over the grave. Bal Safik Afar Haba Me'eretz Ha'amim. And if there's a doubt regarding the land from the nations, that means outside the land of Israel, and that's the case that we're looking for, case number 2. That's going to be our problem. Over this is also a case where you burn the truma. Bal Safik Bigdei Amaretz, clothing of an Amaretz, which we have a concern that maybe his wife, that was a nida, sat on the clothing, wasn't careful regarding her tumah, and made the clothing tameh. Bal Safik Kelam Anim Tzaim, in any vessels that you find that you don't know what their history is, that's considered tameh. Bal Safik Haraikin, and anyone that spits, you don't know if maybe he was a zav. Bal Safik Me Ragli Adam Shekeneged Me Ragli Behema. An interesting case. If there's urine from a human, but it's right next to urine from an animal, so you could say that maybe it's both from an animal. You don't know if it's from a human. We say no. We assume that it's from a human, and therefore we consider it tameh. Even though you have 2 doubts here. First of all, is it from a human at all? Maybe it's from an animal. And even if it is from a human, maybe the person was tar. No, we say that it's tameh. That's the way Rashi learns. So in all of these cases, al vadai magan, if truma definitely touched these items, however, safik tumasan, val safik tumasan, but you don't know if they were really tameh, so sarfnes a truma. In those cases, you burn the truma. Okay. Rabbi Yossi Aimer, so far we didn't get our total problem. Rabbi Yossi Aimer, afal safik magan, even if it's a doubt if it was touched, as the Chachamim said, the Tanna Kama says that if it was definitely touched, then you burn the truma, even though you don't know if it was really tameh. So where's our doubt? On the tumah. Rabbi Yossi says, even if there was a doubt if it was touched, then b'rishus hayachid sarfin, you still burn it if it was in a rishus hayachid. We've learned before that a safek tumah b'rishus hayachid, in a private domain, if there's a doubt if tumah was contracted, we say that it's tameh. Why do we say that? We learn from Saita. Just like Saita is called a woman that's secluded with a man. So if it's in a private domain, then she's considered tameh. Tameh as in that she's forbidden to her husband. We consider her guilty in a secluded area. There's no one else there. So too other tumas as well. That has to do with a different sort of tumah, but it's nevertheless we say that's considered tameh. The Chachamim say b'rishus hayachid Thailand. Rishus hayachid, we don't burn it. Thailand means we leave it in limbo, we don't eat it, and we don't burn it. Rishus rabim tairim. So the Chachamim have a much more lenient opinion here. They say in a public area, it's considered tahar entirely. Va'amar Ula. Here's where we get to the problem. Ula says, Elu vav sveikas, these 6 things that we just mentioned from a Mishnah, these 6 things, ba'usha hiskino. These were instituted in Usha. Usha's after the destruction. What are you telling me that this came from Yosef ben Yezer and Yosef ben Yochanan, and then afterwards it was added 80 years before the Churban. We have a Mishnah, and Ula's comment on the Mishnah is that it came from Usha. The Gemara explains. Ela asa inu, Yosef ben Yezer came, Gazer Agusha Litleis. They made a decree. There's a whole historical process to this. Yosef ben Yezer were well over 100 years before the Churban. They made a decree on the land. What's the decree? That if truma touches that land, then you don't burn it, but you can't eat it. They didn't say anything about the airspace about Tumas Oyel. 80 years before the Churban, they said the airspace also you don't burn, but they added the airspace. That means Tumas Oyel. Ba'usha, and they came in Usha, Gazer Agushal district. They said that if it's the land, then you burn it. If it touches land, then you burn it. But the airspace, they left the same, that you don't burn it and you don't You don't need it either. Okay. Now we're holding at the 2 dots on 15b. We mentioned that Yossi ben Yezer and Yossi ben Yechon made a decree regarding glass vessels. It says, klei zechuches, glass utensils. My time of Gozer bu Rabbanan Tumah. Why is there a decree of Tumah on glass utensils? Rabbi Yechanan Amar Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yechanan says the name of Rish Lakish. You'll never find this anywhere in Shas. Rabbi Yechanan should say in the name of Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish was a student. This is a big chiddush. And the explanation is that you have to take one of these things out. Either you take out Amar Rabbi Yechanan, or it's Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Amar Levi, maybe Reb Levi. So, what is that, Yitzi? I can't see. Oh. So, that would be a possible explanation. Hayel utchilas briyasan menachol. Since glass is made from sand, Shavin Rabbanan kekli cheres, so they consider it like earthenware. Earthenware is made from mud or whatever. This is made from sand. Pretty much the same thing, depending on how ground the soil is, the rocks. So it's all the same material. So therefore, they consider it like kli cheres, earthenware, and the earthenware is tamei. So glass is also tamei because it's made from the same material. Elamayata, if that's the case, if you want to consider it like earthenware, so why do you allow it to become pure in the mikveh? Earthenware doesn't become pure in the mikveh. If you have a vessel, earthenware vessel that's tamei, you have to break it. You have to smash it. Ein lam tara. There's no purity. But other types of vessels, like metal, you put it in the mikveh. So we were thinking that glass, okay, it's like metal. You put it in the mikveh if it's tamei. But we're saying that why is it tamei? Because it's the same like earthenware. So give it the whole status of earthenware, that it has to be broken. Why can you purify glass by putting it in the mikveh? Alama tanan. Why was it taught in the Mishnah? These types of substances that are very sticky. Zephys is like some sort of tar. That usually glass is very easy to clean. So if it's dirty, people aren't so makbid on it because they'll wash it off. Glass is like that. But these certain things are very sticky, and even on glass, people are concerned about it. So when you put something in the mikveh, it needs to be perfectly clean. And if there's a dirt on it that you're not happy with, so then it's considered a chatzitza. So here you see that there's certain things by glass that there's a chatzitza. Why would you be mentioning chatzitza? Obviously, because you're going to put it in the mikveh. You see, glass can go in the mikveh. This is our source, that glass can go in the mikveh, that if there's something there that's dirty, that it would be chatzitza, those specific types of dirt. The Gemara answers, actually, really, glass doesn't go in the mikveh. There's a hole in the glass. How'd they fill up the hole? They used lead, the metal, the soft metal, and they filled it up with lead, which is an easy plug, and so it's considered metal. But Rab Meir, and it's going according to the opinion of Meir, that if you have something that's fixing a vessel, like a plug in the vessel, so you consider the whole vessel like the material of the plug. So over here, you have a glass vessel, but we're not going to consider it earthenware like it should be. We're going to consider it as lead, as metal. Why? Because it's being plugged by metal. The Tanya was taught in a brayso, kleis chukas shenikvu, glass that has a hole in it. And you put lead into it to plug it up. Amar Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says, Rab Meir mitame v'chachamim mitarin. Rab Meir says it's tame. In other words, it's considered plugged up. And we're assuming that that also means that it's considered lead. And the Chum say that it's tar. It's not considered plugged up. Okay. Taisvus commentaries discuss, how do you know that Reb Meir really holds that it's considered like lead? Could be that it just holds that it's fixed, but it's still considered glass. Whatever the case is, we consider it, we're saying over here that it takes the status of the patch. And so therefore it's considered metal. And that's why you can put it in the mikveh. That's why you can, only this type of glass you can put in the mikveh. Elamayata, now we ask, if that's the case, that we're considering it like earthenware, leiletamu migaban, so it shouldn't be tummy from the back. Earthenware is only tummy from the air space inside, in the vessel. If you touch the outside of the vessel, so something that goes inside the vessel is tummy, but the outside of the vessel is tar if it's earthenware. You're saying that glass is earthenware. Why is it tummy from the outside? Alama Tanan. Why was it taught in the Mishnah? Klei cheres kli neser tamasan shava. Earthenware in neser. Neser is also made out of some sort of clay, a white clay. They have the equal sort of tuma. Mitamin, they become tameh. Umitamin, and give off tuma. Me'avireyan, from their airspace. Umitamin me'achireyan, and they also become tameh from the back. Now, from the back doesn't mean from the outside of the vessel. This is like, those Kiddush cups that have a stem. So the top of it is a cup, of course, that's the Kiddush cup, but on the bottom, there's a hollow, you have to ask Moshe Pekar. On the bottom, the trophies maybe. On the bottom, I can't read it on the screen. The bottom it also has a receptacle. So these things become tummy from the bottom as well. When I was a kid, I used to think the top is for fleishiks and the bottom is for milchiks. The thing. But okay, so it could become tummy from the bottom as well. However, ve'in metamin migabeyim, they don't become tummy from the outside, from the outer part of from the external side, from this side. They don't become tummy. Okay. Ushvirasan metarasan. And how do you purify it? You break it. So now, kli neser, kli cheres, hud tamasan shava. Now, so we only have two materials that this works with. That's kli neser and kli cheres. They have this equal sort of impurity. But not other utensils. Why do you say that earthenware, that clay zechuches, that glass utensils are tamei, and we're giving them a regular tuma? If they're tamei only because of earthenware, they should have the tuma of earthenware. So why, when you talk about the specialty of tuma that's on earthenware, you don't mention glass? It should have the same status as glass, that it shouldn't that it should not give off tuma from the outside. The Gemara answers, Amri, they said like this: since when it breaks, Yeslam takana, you could fix them. Shavinu kechli matechas. So they consider it. 1 second. Shragi. So because if it breaks, you can take the particles of glass and you can melt it up and you can turn it back into glass, which you can't do by clay. Once it breaks, you can't do anything with that. So you can't just put it in a pot and melt it. So that's why Shavinu Klimateches. So they consider it like metal, that it gives off tumah from the back. As even though the concern was that it's similar to earthenware, but because it also has similarities to metal, that you can, just like metal, you could put it into a, what's it called? Not a kiln. What's it called? The metal, the furnace, some smelting thing. That and you could turn it back into a utensil. So glass, you can do the same. Okay. If that's the case, there's an interesting halacha that usually when you break a utensil, like an earthenware utensil, it becomes tar. By metal, you have the same thing, it becomes tar. What is that, styrofoam? But that doesn't apply. It becomes tar. By earthenware, it becomes 100% tar. But by metal, when it becomes tar, it only becomes tar while it's broken. When you fix it, it's as if there's a memory that the old tumah that was on this comes back. Follow? There's like a memory to it that the tumah comes back. So if you're saying that glass has a status of metal, so then when you purify it by breaking it, and then you put it back together because you put it into the kiln or whatever, so then the old tumah should come back, just like metal. The tumah comes back. Ditnan, metal utensils, whether they're a receptacle or whether they're flat like a blech, they're tamei. Nishbru, if they're broken, then taru, they become pure. Chazr vasmem kelim, if you return and you make them into vessels, chazr l'tamasim yishana, they go back to their old impurity. So all the Mishnayos discuss, you buy a utensil from this person, maybe it was tamei before this, or if you buy just a block of metal, was it once a vessel and now you're going to turn it back into a vessel, the old tumah is going to get back. There's all these issues with this. So the same thing should apply to glass. But regarding glass, it says, kli eitza kli ar, kli etzem kli zchuches, wood, leather, utensils made out of bone, and glass, shutayim tayrim. If they're not a receptacle, they're tahar, minat tayra. And mekableim tameim. And when they are receptacle, they're tamei. Nishberu, if they're broken, taru, they become pure. Chazavas mem kelim. If you then make them into utensils after they were broken, mekablim tumah mikana lahaba, only from here and on they become tamei. The old tumah doesn't come back. Mikana lahaba en l'mafreilai. So why is that the case if glass is like metal? The Gemara answers, Tumas klei zchuches derabanan. It's only tamei rabbinically. The tumah yeshana derabanan, and the old tumah is also only a rabbinic decree that the old tumah comes back. So the tumah deraisa chisa berabanan tumah. If there was a biblical tumah to start with, then the Rabbanan said that when you make it into a utensil again, you put on it the old tumah, fine. But the tumah derabanan le'achisa rabbanan tumah. But by a rabbinic tumah, the Rabbanan didn't put on it the old tumah to come back. When it was a rabbinical vessel, a utensil that's only becomes tumah, that's only susceptible to tumah rabbinically, they didn't put on the old tumah to come back. The Gemara asks, but a straight piece of glass should become tamei, at least if it's similar to metal. Just a blech is already considered a utensil, even though it's not a receptacle. It should become tamei. Glass as well, a pane of glass. because straight metal, a sheet of metal, is tamei. The Gemara answers, "Avdu Rabban Nakir ki echad l'liser v'leim shuma v'kach." We made a decree. They made a recognition to make sure that no one thinks that it's biblically tamei. Because what would be if it's biblically tamei? If it would be biblically tamei, then you would burn shuma and kachim. And we don't want to do that because it's really only a rabbinic decree. So we have to show that it's not a biblical tama. Okay. Yes, sir. Can you ask him to turn it quieter? Yes, sir. Okay. Turn the page. We're on top of Tes Zayin, 16b. Ravashi says, really, it's not metal. It's really like earthenware. With the kakashala, we had some questions on that. Leila tama migaban. It shouldn't be tummy from the back. Klicheres has a leniency that if you touch the outside of it, it doesn't give off tumah. So by glass as well, touching the outside shouldn't give off tumah. The Gemara answers because it's clear, and you can look into the vessel. You can see the inside from the outside. So they considered the whole thing like the inside. Okay, interesting. Okay, we mentioned when we spoke about Yossi ben Yezer and Yossi ben Yochanan that there was tumah on the land of the nations and on the glass utensils. The next part of that statement was a brisa. Was Shimon ben Shattach instituted a ksuba for a woman. So the Gemara is now going back to that. So Shimon ben Shattach tikkun ksuba leisha because it tumah al kli matechas, and he also instituted tumah on a metal utensil. Now, he instituted tumah on a metal utensil. Kli matechas deraisa. Metal utensils become tamei min haTorah. Why did it say that Shimon ben Shattach instituted that? The ksiv achas hazav es hakesev. It says over there, when the war with Midian, they took the things back. They had to make them pure and they had to make them kosher. It says gold and silver; those are types of metals. And you're telling me that it was instituted by Shimon ben Shattach? It's in the Torah. Shimon ben Shattach is in the Second Temple. This is already said in the Torah. It's from the text. The Gemara says, "Like nitzchel to miyashana." No, Shimon ben Shattach instituted something that we just learned. That if it was originally tamei, and then you broke the vessel, you melted it or something, or you made a hole in it large enough that it becomes tar, and now you fixed it, the old tumah comes back. That old tumah coming back is a decree from Shimon ben Shattach. Damar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says the name of Rav. Okay, we have an interesting story here. We have Maisa b'Shaltzian HaMalka. Shaltzian HaMalka has different names. Sometimes she's called Shlemtzian, Shlemith, whatever. But she was the wife, the queen of Yanai, Alexander Yanai. He was a Chashmonite king. Actually, she was first married to his brother, and Yanai did yibam on her. He married, his brother died, or Aristobulus or whatever. Yanai was a bad king. He killed all the Chachamim. They had to run away. Shlemtzian was the sister of Shimon ben Shattach. Shimon ben Shattach, she hid. We had a Gemara in Brachas, I think, where he made a feast and he didn't have anyone to bench. And he asked his wife, find me someone that could lead the benching, but only if you don't harm him. And they brought out, she brought out her brother, Shimon ben Shattach. Anyway, this Shlemtzian, this is Second Temple era, Shasa Mishta Lebna, She made a party for her son. I don't know what that means. Maybe a wedding. Does it say what type of party it was? V'nitzmu kol keleh. All the utensils became tamei. That's a problem. They didn't have disposable cups back then. So what's she going to do? B'shaparatan, she broke all of them. V'nasnasan l'tzayrev. She gave them to the smith to make them back into to utensils. V'ritchan v'asamem kelim chadashim. He made them back into utensils. That's how they fixed the problem. V'amar chacham, and the chacham said, Yachzol Tumah Yishana. The old tumah comes back. They had metal utensils, I guess. And the old tumah comes back. My timer, why were they so strict? Once you break it, it should be tar. My answer is mishum geder mechatas nagaba. They had a concern. The concern was that really, if the vessels became tamei from tamei mace, you were supposed to sprinkle the vessels with the water of the paradum on the third day and on the seventh day. That means that these vessels can't be used for 7 days. Now, if there's a way out, then people will stop using the mechatas entirely. So they didn't want to make a way out. This is a loophole that people, it was like, either you can wait a week and get this process done, or you can do it the other way, the quick way, the expedited tara. So they said that, no, if you're going to do this expedited way, then you're going to get, the tumah is going to come back. It's not going to really work once you make it back into a vessel. One second. When does the tumah come back onto metal vessels when you remake them? Is it referring to tumas mace, tumah from a corpse, or is it all tumah? If you say it's only tumas mace, then we understand why they instituted this, because really it's a long process. You're trying to beat the system and you're trying to do it quickly. So people were concerned you're going to forget about the mechatas, the water of the paraduma. So they said it doesn't work. But if the tumah comes back, not just for tumas mace, it comes back also for sherets and other types of tumas that even after you broke it, when you remake it into a vessel, the tumah comes back even for those tumas. So what's the reason for that? Those tumas anyways don't have mechatas, the paraduma. What's the reason for what is there to say according to that opinion? Amar Abaya Abaya says maybe he won't make a hole large enough. How large does a hole need to be? I think so that pomegranates should fall through a large hole. Otherwise, each time you have a hole in a vessel, so you use it, you let's say a vessel has a leak. Okay, so you don't use it for liquid. You use it for rice. Let's say that it gets bigger. Okay, so you don't use it for rice, you use it for grapes. Okay, the hole gets bigger, so you don't use it for that, you use it for the... Anyway, it moves up until when is it totally not a vessel? You can't use it anymore. You're right, that's something from nothing. So that's when pomegranates fall through it. When pomegranates fall through, then you're done. That's totally not a vessel anymore. It's trash. Okay, so it's not a vessel anymore. We're concerned that someone may destroy his vessel, but not enough that it's going to be tahar. So that's what we said the tumah comes back, because we don't want to give you this option. Rava said we have a different concern. People saw this vessel became tamei. 20 minutes later, you're back using the vessel. So say, how do you do that? Must be you put it in the mikveh. Really, what you did was you gave it to the smith to melt it and make it back into a vessel, which he did very quickly, and he puts it into the water, cools it off, and it's hard again. So now you're using this vessel. So how were you able to do that? It must be put into the mikveh. People are going to think that putting it into the mikveh works. And really, putting it into mikveh doesn't work. Why? Because you need to sprinkle on it. Actually, you don't need to sprinkle on it. We're dealing now with the sheretz, but you still need to wait for nightfall. You need to wait for nightfall, and here you didn't wait for nightfall. You purified it without waiting for nightfall either. So that's a concern. The Gemara now asks, my binayo, what's the difference between them? Ika binayo, the difference is the ratzfinu maratzif, that you broke it down all the way. Okay. So if you totally shattered it, I don't know how you shatter it, it's metal. If you grind it down all the way, so then you'll say that, look, the fact that maybe you didn't make a big enough hole, you definitely made a big hole. So that's not a concern. But the fact that you might say that you're able to use it before nightfall, that's still a concern. That's one pshat in Rashi. Rashi gives another pshat. If you totally break it down, then you can see when you make it new that it's totally new. So the concern that you might not wait for nightfall, people are going to think that you can use it before nightfall. Everyone sees that this is a brand new vessel. You don't have that problem. Anyway, Rashi gives both pshatim here. Okay. V'idach mai. Now we have a total of 9 or 10, depending on what we count, items that are decrees from the attic of Hanani ben Chizkiah ben Gurion. Okay. What are the other ones? The Tanan, we need a total of 18. So we learned in a Mishnah, if someone puts, 1 second. Yosef, can you turn it softer? Someone puts vessels under a drain pipe. So the water's coming off the roof. Or maybe it's not off the roof, maybe it's even in the ground. It's a drain pipe that's like taking the runoff. Now, this tzinar, this drain pipe, is not a vessel because it was made after it was put into the ground. So in other words, it was put into the ground as pieces, and then it was like put together. So first it was in the ground, then you chiseled out, let's say, that it should be able to collect water. So that's considered attached to the ground. It's not considered a vessel. However, you then take a vessel and you put it under this drain pipe to catch the water. Now, whether it's a large vessel or a small vessel, I feel a klei avanim, even if it's made out of stone, klei adama, or it's made out of the soil, just like earthenware, klei glalim. But its earthenware is when you heat it up. This is when it's not heated up. Or you made it out of manure. It's also another way of making vessels. These are vessels that usually aren't mikabel tumah. These vessels, paisel as a mikvah, it's still going to be pasul because the water is considered drawn water. And drawn water will pasul the mikvah. So originally, the water would come down into the mikvah, and naturally the mikvah is kosher. But you now put vessels under it to catch the water, and from the vessels it goes into the mikvah, so the mikvah becomes pasul. Whether you put the vessels there to catch the water, or whether you put the vessels there because you just forgot them there, it's always going to pasul the mikvah. Divrei Beis Shammai, that's the opinion of Beis Shammai. Basil says that if you just forgot them there, then it's going to be tar. As it depends if he wants the vessels to collect the water. If he doesn't want the vessels to collect the water, then it's going to be tar. Okay. It's not considered she'uvim if he doesn't intend to collect the water. It's only if he intends to collect the water that it's considered she'uvim, drawn water. And Amar Rab Meir says Nimnu v'Rabbu Beis Shammai al Beis Hillel, that Beis Shammai overpowered Beis Hillel on this, and they said that even if he forgets it, it's still going to be considered shuvim. Okay, so here we have another example. This would be example 10 or 11 of the cases, the 18 cases that Beis Shammai wins Beis Hillel. And Umayda Beis Shammai agrees. B'shechech b'chatzah. If someone forgets the utensils in the courtyard, shehutar, that it's tar. You see, if it's just to catch the rain, then that's not really counted if he forgets it there. If he puts it under the drain pipe and he forgets it there, then you're really catching water. Just to catch the rain is not enough of an issue. Now, Amar Rabbi Yosi says Adayin machlekes b'mekayimei medes. Rabbi Yosi says no, they never did come to a conclusion here. The machlekes still exists. According to Rabbi Yosi, this is not going to count as one of the things that Beis Shammai won over Beis Hillel. Amar Rab Misharshir says, the Bei Rav Amri, that they said in the yeshiva of Rav, Hakol Maidim, everyone agrees, Kishinicham b'shas kishiravim tmeim, that if he put them at the time when the clouds are gathered, everyone agrees that that's considered a collection, because you see the clouds are there, it's gonna rain, so it's going to be you're going to get the drip from it's talking about by the drain pipe. But if the clouds are there and you put it over there, everyone agrees that it's going to be considered she'uvim water. B'shas pizer of him, but if you put it there when there were no clouds there, everyone agrees that it's not in order to collect water, because there's no clouds. Where's the water going to come from? So where's the machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? You put it there when the clouds were there, but then the clouds disappeared and you forgot it there. Now the clouds came back. Do you say that you go back to the original intention, that this was to collect water? Or do you say that you left it there when the clouds went away and it doesn't go back to the original intention? One opinion says, Beis Hillel says that your intention has gone away. Other opinion says, no, the original intention comes back. What's Rabbi Yosi going to do? You don't have the full 18 amount of decrees that Beis Shammai run over Beis Hillel. Rav Nachman Yitzchak, af b'nais kutim nidas merisasim by b'yim gazru. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says that we can also say that we had a Mishnah in Nida, that b'nais kutim, the daughters of the kutim, they become tamei. They're considered tamei from the first day that they're born, even from the cradle. They're considered a nida. And the reason for that was they didn't have the same laws that we have. So there was a concern over there that there would be mistakes. And so we consider them tamei right away. Okay, let's leave the Gemara over here. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you very much, Roy Smith.
Thank you very much. Yeshua
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Should
I'm
feel
on.
good. Okay, all the best.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Leave you.
Good out of us.